Hello and welcome to Wikipedia Weekly Network. Here where I, Jan Ainali and Albin Larsson are editing Wikidata Live. How are you doing, Albin?
I'm well. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I got some hot tea here. I got half a pharmacy behind my screen, and I'm really looking forward to this. How are you, Jan?
I'm great. I've been sort of following the data modeling days very closely. Have you been able to watch anything or
The two
participate?
first days,
Yeah.
and I have seen that the videos are already coming up, so I'm looking forward to uh, get ahead of it in the week.
Yes. And it's sort of almost over. There's a few more social events after we ending, and there's some side events tomorrow, but otherwise it's we're sort of in the end of it. Well, what have you planned for today?
I am gonna play around with something called ShExStatements, which is like a way to make SHEX schemas with CSV. And by using CSV, it also means that we can use SPARQL to generate schemas easily. So that's something I want to play with.
Very nice, very nice. It has been quite a lot of entity schemas and stuff
Yeah,
during these days, so hopefully this and I saw one of the ending comments was that it looks a little bit scary, so perhaps this you can make them feel safer.
exactly.
Yeah. And I think I will sort of pick up from a discussion that I participated in the data quality days in 2021. So head into that and see sort of a little bit of what it is, and it's regarding occupations and employment, typically hard part. But I'm gonna hide this one that's rotating here all the while, so it's gonna be a little bit less dense to see. And I'm gonna share. How I'm gonna share this? I'm gonna share my screen for starter here, and I think this is the presentation. Clearly property, and I'm gonna see. This is. Oh no, I don't want that as a ticker. Can I change it to not scroll? See, and just show it. Here is the link to this page from the data quality days, and what it really. Oh, and if you're following the program, we also set up an Etherpad, so you you can chat with us there, or here in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, or even Owncast. Are you following that chat?
I'm gonna try to follow that chat.
Yeah. Great. And you also find this link in there. So head to the Etherpad, and then you'll find everything from there. And that link goes to the page that I'm showing here. And what we were talking about in that discussion is the way we model occupation and employment. And those are two different properties. And of course, you can, in the best of the worlds, you sort of want to tie them together so that you know I'm working as a scientist at this university, and then I'm working as a journalist at this newspaper. So you don't see like, oh, you're just having the scientist. Well, if it's journalist and scientist, university and newspaper, maybe it's obvious. But if you have like professor and researcher and two different universities, then you want to know, well, which one was at which place. So that was sort of this discussion. And the discussion was really good, and you can really go back into this. But sort of what came out of it was that, well, there are basically two different ways of doing this. So you can either do the qualifier on the one or the other, and the one when you have employer and occupation as a qualifier, they call this in this discussion as the CV, curriculum vitae, sort of style. But in the discussion, we're really sort of like, well, we have this and this, but which one are we going to choose? And it was put to the community afterwards, but there was never really any strong decision on this. So what I wanted to do today was sort of like, well, what happened? Let's investigate a little bit on this and how does it actually look on Wikipedia. And to first really show you what it is, I managed to dig up one of the few person here that have an occupation and physicist. Don't mind that is okay. The other has a qualifier with occupation, but it occupation, physicist, and then employer, university. So this is the one way of doing it, where you can clearly see that yes, this person worked as a physicist at the University of Rostock. And then if we scroll down, we can also see that employer, Institute of Physics, University of Rostock, worked as scientists. So here we have the both on the same thing, and that is sort of like, yeah, it's a bit redundant, but we have them at least. And I was curious, like, all right, well, how do we query for this, and how can we compare this? So that's where we're gonna head in now, into the wonderful world of Wikidata Query Service.
Did you make a query to find such a good example, or did you just stumble upon it?
I made a query and found a good person. Yeah. Yes.
Were there a lot of them?
We're gonna do some statistics
No,
here, but okay. There's a handful.
There's a handful, okay.
Yes. So I'm just gonna start as I usually do with these control spacing after select to get its start of a query, and then we're gonna select an item, and I'm gonna try to find this specific person now, just to show you. And then we had the occupation, and I think it's 106. Yes, it is. And then I don't remember what was the place. So let's scroll back up here. I want to grab this University of Rostock. So now if I do this and run it, we will get, I have to press the right play button. We didn't get anyone? I must have done something obviously wrong here. Occupation. Ah, yes. Occupation, University of Rostock. That's, no one has that. Yeah, they are physicists. Now we're gonna have like probably thousands of physicists, I'm guessing. I never test ran this part, but it's interesting to see sort of just how many we're gonna narrow down then. 31,000 physicists. That's quite good. And then we have them coming here. Some really famous one with low numbers. But then we want to select only the ones that have the employer University of Rostock. So here's where, like, when you're querying for, we've done this a couple of times, but I'm always, every time I get back in it, have to think a little bit. And what we want to do, we want to go again. And instead of now, the first VDT here, that one selects the like a truthy statement. But now to come down to the qualifiers, we need to go into the nitty-gritty here and select first the statement of P106. And here, I'm just going to call this statement, because we're getting sort of the entire node of this. And then from this statement, we want the qualifier, PQ. And then we're going to go back and check employer P108. or you can start write employer here and press Control Shift to get there. And here's where we want to get the University of Rostock, like we had here, and head back over there. So if I wrote this right now, we're going to get everyone who is a physicist with best rank or like this, and also having a University of Rostock. So let's see how many of those we get. None. What did I do? Oh, I did. Very important, not tiny piece, because that's something else.
Only large piece.
Yes. So here we have Thomas again, and a couple of other ones. So that's sort of like what we wanted. But really what we want now is, I want to sort of compare these two different kind of modelings against each other and count. So I'm going to get rid of this line because we don't really need that one. We're not going to care about people specifically being physicists. We're also not going to care specifically about people being at the University of Rostock. They can be employed anywhere. So I'll just do it like this. And then we want to count. How many items do we get here? So let's do a count. The item is this now. Let me. Losing myself in my tabs. We want to count the items, and we're just going to call that count. So if I do, and we don't need this service now because that'll save us some time counting. So counting items that has a statement where the statement has an occupation statement and where that has a qualifier with an employer. So let's see how many of these we have. 6,186. That's quite good. So I'm actually gonna take that note now, and in the Etherpad here, we're gonna just add a few notes. Yes, that's what we want to do. And then we want to take this query and copy that one in there too. So the query, and we had 6186. Just to save the stats here. And then, of course, what we want to compare that to is the opposite. So let's head back to the query service. And really only what we need to do now is to swap these two. And that should be enough. So let's do the employer here and the occupation there, employer occupation. And that's 335. So a 20.
Way less.
Yes. So it's not even close. 335, that's not hard to clean up manually, even just to go through all of these to see, should we convert it to the other way? That's a fairly not too bad list to check. We have some comments here. Let's see. What do we have? Oh, any way to ensure only distinct entries? Well, yes, that is a good thing because we could have several. So I think it's just doing distinct here. Let's see if that's actually different. 199 even. So there's it means that it is people that has multiple of the same, I guess.
No, in this case, it would just need to be someone who have been employed multiple times, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. So really, like it's 199 persons, but it's going to be
yes,
like 300 rows to
exactly.
fix.
Yeah,
And I think the rows is actually more important in this data cleanup. So I'm going to run that like this again. And we'll get 335. We'll grab this and head back over here. And then, of course, there's always like, well, how many? We already seen one that had both. Well, how many do have both? So that's the last thing we're gonna try to
finally.
figure out. So we're gonna put that in here. Items both, query and number of results, and let's head back here then. So now we want to first have these, and then we want the item, the person, and we already have the employers. And here we're going to do the opposite. So P106. But now we can't use statement again because we already have that one, and that's going to mix it up. So we can call this awk statement. We'll go up here and say this to be emp statement, just to make sure we're not mixing things up. And then for the awk statement, we want to select the qualifier where they have employer. And that can be anything. I think this might be the one. So and then we're going to count. So this is going to have both at least one of each. And we get 9.
But this might be a case for a distinct one, right? Or am I imagining things?
Let's see if we get any difference. So 3.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So it's 3 items.
So that have both.
Yeah.
So let's see who these 3 are. And now we can actually go with the query service again. Oh, no, not like that. We want service. Label service. You have to select for it as well. So I'm guessing we're going to see Thomas, Theophil, Gallo, and Danish contractor.
That's an interesting one. I really hope that that's a name.
A computer scientist named Danish contractor. This must be some odd.
This is amazing.
This is by an IP. Has this been vandalized recently?
It's a very high Q number.
Where did the Danish contractor come in? Here somewhere is this person editing. Family name, contractor. This seems very odd. Let's check the item again.
Person?
I think this must be some sort of like writing in from a list of something more or less automated, and someone is named Danish contractor. Danish contractor in many languages.
Interesting.
Very interesting. But has this been? Oh, let's check the history again. We have to go way more back. third edit.
Okay.
Someone says there.
And lots of social media. So maybe we can compare it to a website?
No, but the label was first person and then Danish contractor. This has been a weird thing all along. What does the social media say?
It seems a little bit promotional to me.
Danish C. Is someone actually called Danish contractor?
You learn something every day. Danish contractor.
Maybe that's actually a name. Is it a coincidence? I don't
mean,
know.
there are several people in the sidebar there with the same name.
Oh, all right. All right. So that might be, this person must have a lot of mix-ups in their lives, I think. Well, anyway, we have 3 here with double, so those are easy to clean up. But then we had, luckily I saved this here. We had these 335, which turned out to be, so wait, it was 9 lines, we said. Let's remove, can I go back here? 2 steps? There. Run this one again. So we had 9 lines to fix, really, of this sort.
But this to me is very interesting because like the discussion from the data quality days 2 years ago were very much like, if I understood it correctly, that it doesn't matter which way, but we should pick one of them.
Yes.
And I think you have really demonstrated here, like,
it seems like the community already picked one.
Yeah.
And then there's a few that do
it just
a
needs
little
clarification.
bit. Yeah.
Like, so, this is consensus by practice, more or less.
Very much so. And Lydia agrees on that. Oh, and yes, Andrew say it's probably Danish, not Danish, or something, or Danish, or yeah. But as I see, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here on the. I think I'm gonna write something on project chat and sort of link to this and to this video, and sort of say, hey, we had this discussion and we couldn't come to a consensus while talking about it, but it seems like while doing, we did anyway. And should we sort of like agree on that and move on? And
we write constraints for it and put it in documentation. So
and then we saw the other one here where we actually had a couple of constraints that, well, if you have the occupation physicist, you cannot have the occupation as a qualifier on the occupation. So that's not quite correct. And then there was another one here where it said, you cannot have occupation. No, was it occupation? Oh, well, here I think we already have the thing that like occupation should not be. So we have a qualifier constraint here. So, but really what I think the constraint should be is that the employer shouldn't be a main statement. That should always be a qualifier. And it should be a qualifier on the occupation. And then we'll sort of not going to fall back into this trap again. Yeah. Yes. So that's what I think the rest of my evening is going to write that thing. Or maybe I'll first write it in the outcomes things for the data modeling days.
But what if you do not have an occupation, but you have an employer? If we're gonna make it really like complicated, semantically.
Yeah. Yes. So you, basically you can read in a news article that someone was employed by somewhere, but you don't really exactly know what they were employed as.
Yeah, but I could even imagine like places where your work is just anything. Um, I think like we often when we get employed, we often get a title and such, but I think that's a rather cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I could imagine there being a mix match there. Like, no, I was employed, but I did everything from uh,
Yeah,
computer
but
science
we can
to
have a
uh,
we can have uh, an item for that. I mean, in Swedish you would have alti allo.
yeah, okay,
So, or in soccer you're libero. You do a little bit of whatever you want. There's probably
yeah,
a jack of all trades, perhaps.
jack of
I'm
all
not sure.
trades. Yeah,
Yeah, if that's a good occupation. That's an interesting point, though.
or is it also okay for a person to have like multiple occupation during the same time at the same employer?
Yeah, I think it should be.
Yeah,
I think that is possible. I certainly met people saying that, oh, I work 50% with doing development, and I
yeah,
do 50% of developer advocacy or something. Well, like with very two
exactly.
distinctive roles.
Yeah, because then they still probably have one title somehow,
Possibly,
and
yes.
yeah, but they have multiple occupations, so to say.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we
Um,
want to sort of, if we can model that and capture that, I think that would be interesting.
yeah, no, so do
Uh,
I think, but I think it's interesting to look at that
yeah.
way as well.
And it's probably very common for people at universities to both be like being a researcher and maybe an assistant professor or something like that, or
Yes,
even a professor as well. Like you have both the teaching role and the research role.
yeah, or in small businesses that you do about just about everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yes, that was what I was wanted to show.
Very nice. We have a suggestion here from Jane as well that it would be cool if someone named Wikipedia could be on a Wikipedia panel one day. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone in the chat see that as an opportunity.
yeah. And I also see that Andrew was doing some digging here. That this person was on a panel with Cat Walsh, who's been on the Wikimedia Foundation board before, so probably exists.
Uh-huh.
Very
We learn something every day.
yes.
Sometimes it's just not what we expect.
No, that was a
Um,
little bit of a sidetrack.
Indeed, but they are the best ones. I am gonna jump straight in here to this tool, ShExStatements, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna bring up the URL for everyone. I'm not gonna zoom in that much. I'm gonna keep it like that, okay? And let's bring up the URL. ShExStatements.toolforge.org. And this tool got me really excited the other day because what it allows you to do in practice is that it allows you to write CSV comma separated values to define shaped expressions. So to me, shaped expressions are great. They are amazing in every way, but they aren't in the same style as SPARQL and not Turtle either. So they're kind of syntax you do not see every day, and that makes it a little bit tricky for me. But on the other hand, CSV is super accessible. We can create it with SPARQL, we can create it with OpenRefine, we can create it with like any spreadsheet tool. And here is where it gets really nice, I think. So I wanted to see if we can't bring up an example here. I had one just before. Let's see if we had them in the quick start. Ah, here we go. There we go, an example. So if we just paste it in here, we see this is a bunch of prefixes, like VD is the Wikidata entity, just as you would have in the SPARQL editor, but it's hidden here behind prefixes, VD. And we got a couple of those. And here we see, this is a really nice feature actually. So this is it's explained down here, but the node in this case is the type of item in practice here for Wikidata at least. And this allows us to have like one CSV with multiple types or item types. So we could model a glacier, we could model a person, all in the same CSV, and then have multiple expressions output. Then we can see that a language should have instance of, and that should be language. We got a nice little bit of comment here, and we got like how many values are accepted. So spoken in country, we got a couple of them. But if I now click go here, we see that from this type of comma separated values, we get a completely valid shaped expression. And that's great, because another thing it means, we can create this with SPARQL. And I have previously created a schema for glaciers. Let's see if it's actually in my glacier list. Let me just bring up that old link as well. It's a page here with various types of queries, like the least common properties on glaciers. Why do you need that query? I don't know. We needed it for some reason, or needed. It was fun to make. And I wonder if I don't have this shaped expression here. Let's see. Tools, visualization, model item. No, maybe not. Okay, but let's then search for it instead. Glacier. Here we go. A ton of prefixes and some notes on instance of, coordinate location, and so on. But let's see if we can't generate this. So one query we had here on the Glacier page was least common properties on glaciers, and I'm thinking we could maybe change this to most common properties. And it's super quick. It's just changing the sorting, because it takes all the properties you find on various glaciers and returns them. So if, maybe not the 100 most commons. Let's wait and see. It should be fine anyway, because the least common one does more or less the same thing. In the meanwhile, I could maybe share this query. If I find my way in my tabs here. Here we go. This takes, here we go. So the most common one is coordinate location. The second most common one is instance of. Interestingly, probably because we might have some duplicate, I imagine. Country is super common. Tutorial entity is very common. Content is very common on glaciers, because Antarctica. And then we got a couple of external identifiers mostly. But from this, we should be able to say, like, give me the property and create the CSV in the same format as this. And then we should be able to generate a shaped expression. And maybe we could even like generate a template query. So you just, okay, I want a glacier and I want a schema for that, or I want a schema for a tree, and we just change out the instance of value here. But let's, instead of having like the property label, property description, and so on, we first of all, I just want to pick out the first 20. I think that's more realistic and it's gonna speed things up a little bit. But we don't want this, we actually want the URIs. And I also think we might need to have... No, we actually do not need a header. That's good to know. So let's see here. First, we just want this node. And we can just put a string in here. So we can say at node. I want to keep it generic here because I just want to be able to swap out class here against something else. As, let's call that node. And then let's check the format again. We want the URI for the property. So here we do have the property. So what if I just say property here? And let's actually start by doing something like that. Can I remove that safely? I think so. Oh, bad aggregate. Yes, I'm not selecting this. I actually don't need a group by, I believe. Or the counts, because I'm not counting anymore. But then I'm not gonna have the most common ones. Let's see, I'm gonna need that count at the end anyway. Let's do it like that. No, I still need... And I still need everything. And I'm still doing something wrong.
Group by.
Oh, of course. There we go. So let's see, that's coordinate location. And that looks really good. And this, in the result list here, it do display like VD, but it's behind the scenes here. If I could, I don't think we have a type for viewing the raw response. No, but this is essentially the full URL or URI for the property.
That is actually a view we should have, though, because
Yeah.
it could be interesting, and it's sort of there. It's just hidden.
Yeah, exactly. And you could go to the link, but I think that would start a download here.
Yeah.
But indeed, that's something, because it's incredibly helpful when you get an error as well and need to debug something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but we got the node, we got the property, so we are on our way there. And then it's the value. And the value in this case, it could be different. We do not know what the coordinate is or what the... We do know what the type would be, but that would mean more complex queries. We're going to wait with that. But for now, I'm going to do what I did with the node here. So I'm going to say that the value, and I'm just going to call it value. No, I'm going to call it value here. And I'm going to use a dot here. I think that was the syntax. Let's see, property value, and the value dot means anything. It's exactly the same as in shaped expressions. Okay, so then we're gonna have the node, the property, the value. And I'm gonna check here. How many of each? That's trickier, but I think we can leave it for now to a plus, and we would like get the template here, which we could modify later. And then a comment. The comment we could probably put in the property description. It seems to be rather similar to what's going on here. So let's see. First, we needed something I can't pronounce. Can I copy this? No, I can't. Card, we're gonna call it then, because that's simple for me. And any number, so it's a plus sign. And finally the comment. But let's run this first actually. There we go. It has the format really nicely, and then there.
No, not in the middle.
Not
of
in the
your
middle.
couch.
But here we're gonna say property description, and this is just as when you do a label, description is one of those magic ones. And we're gonna say as comment. And I'm gonna need comment down here. Comment. No, why is this?
Do you need to do a proper bind?
No, I shouldn't need to do a proper bind. Okay. What if I do some horrifying changes to it? No. Let's double check with the original code. Property description, it's in there. Property description. And if we just try something, I mean the header doesn't matter in the CSV, so okay, that works for some reason. Okay. If anyone knows why, feel free to tell us or tell me. But for now, we're gonna stick with this. All right, so here we got the 20 results. And I'm hoping. Okay, so in the best of four.
Yeah, maybe you just want property label, even.
Oh, true. And I saw something else. It would be nice if we didn't have a count in here. But then I would need a subquery. And that's not really what I want to spend my time on. So let's start like this so we can actually get to the tool. And refine it later.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is that I'm gonna download the CSV response here, and you just copy paste it. You're not gonna see it, but you're gonna need to trust me that that's what I'm doing. He said, and open the wrong file. So I'm just opening that with a plain text editor. Let's see, on my computer it says text editor. I'm gonna copy this. And I'm gonna paste it in here. And now because, so one thing that is missing, if we compare it to what we had last, is that we do not have any prefixes defined, but we used the full URI here. So I hope that should mean that we don't need it. But I am gonna remove the headers because there was no headers in the example. And then all of this counts, I'm just gonna need to manually remove as well for now until I can change the query to not include it. So it's a little bit of manual work for now, but I think it We want to demonstrate what we can do with this. And it's quite quick. So now for the big moment, is this enough? I don't think so. If I click go here, we do not get a result. So something I noticed directly that's different from the example or the documentation is when there was a comment here, we always has this hash sign before or the sharp sign. So I'm gonna add that in as well. And of course we can do this in the query later on, like taking the value as a string and just concat it with this prefix. But for now, let's do it like this as a proof of concept. Okay, and let's go. And here, it seems to have generated what looks rather valid. Let's again compare it. Is there a final example here? Yes. So the URIs are spelled this way without the signs in ShEx, so it looks good. And we should have dot plus and a couple of signs in between. Yes, it's in. This works. I'm really happy with this. So, so this is nice. And then what I imagine someone would do is that when you generated something like this, you would then manually have a look at it. It should only be one country, for example. So one would update this, and everything should not have a freebase ID. So you would remove that line. Mountain range, that would be optional. So you would make that optional and so on. I really like this. I think there is something to this. It's the kind of way of you make a tool just with SPARQL here. And then let's see if we can get that count out and get the property label to be nice. I was about to say to be a proper comment from the beginning, so we can get rid of some of that copy paste. So we want to, let's see. No, we just want to do a concat. We want to concat the start here with the property label as comment, and let's hope that we can actually get the group by to behave. No.
Do you need to do the RDFS label instead? Is that instead of using the service? Could that help? Or it shouldn't matter?
I hope it does not matter, but you got a point, so let's try that. No, it's property. So for those of you who do not know, is the label RDF label? We want the label, not the description. So that's the case.
The other one is schema, right?
Yeah, schema description.
Yeah.
So let's see here. We want to do filter. And we want to do label. We want to do lang. Label is equal to English. And I think that's it.
Yes, except you're calling it property label up there. So just label
exactly. There. Yeah. So here I will need to say label. And that should be it. And this is not. Is it that?
Yeah.
What? No, we still get a bad aggregate. What if I rename this to something other than comment?
No.
Yeah, this is really weird. It
Well, if you
probably
do it,
isn't.
if you do a bind, then
Ah,
that
true.
work?
Let's do it as a bind. No. Bind. No. Bind. Concat. And we just redo what we did up in the select. Label as comment. And let's make sure it says comment here as well. And that works.
Oh, no, you don't have the comment up there.
Okay, that's why it does work. Are we gonna do it the sheet way?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. It doesn't complain directly, so I assume this did the trick.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have the comment up there once again.
Nah. Too quick.
Oh. Or too slow somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, it still doesn't crash directly, so it still did the trick, I guess.
I see this comment in the chat doing a check if it's actually bound. Maybe that's why it's...
It shouldn't do a difference. Because I think the concat would just treat the unbound values as an empty string. And also for the properties, we shouldn't have properties without English labels. Okay.
There you go. Very, very slow, but it worked.
It was very slow, which is interesting as well. I guess it selects all the labels when you do it this way.
Yes.
The label service is there for a reason. That's the
yes.
That's the point. Okay, but I also want to, because I want this to just be copy pastable from scratch. I also want to get rid of the count. And that's the tricky part, because if I would just remove the count up here, I would go get any properties. And that would work, but it would be a lot of cleanup work. And I imagine this mostly being used with the most common properties.
Yeah.
So that means I need to do a select within the select query. So I can still have the sorting, but not the value. At least I think this is the case. So I think I just need to do this one more select here. And let's hope we do not get a timeout now, as I had to use the RDF label approach. So question is, yes, we do this over here. And we do a part of this selection at least. Or we do all of it. We do all of it. Oops. Can I use the diamond? I could use the diamond. Nicely. So here we go. I want to select everything, including the count. I wonder if I can do that. I do not think so. And to what extent can I bring this up? Maybe I need to bring up this. This shouldn't work. Oh, no, and you can't do it like that. Okay. That's very sad. So let's just select what we need. We need property. We need comment. But I think that's it. Can I still use the diamond? I can still use the diamond. Non-aggregate variable in select expression. That is very true. And I do not need all of this anymore. It seems to run. And I'm really impressed by this formatting working. I haven't seen it working with these complex queries before. Okay. Should we do betting on a timeout here? I'm not sure the odds are very good. I'm gonna have a look in the comment in the meanwhile.
Ah, there you got it.
I got it.
And
And
quicker.
it looks really good. And it's even quicker for some reason. Yeah, it's not obvious to me why it's quicker. Not at all. Okay. I'm gonna do the magic trick behind the scenes. I'm gonna download the CSV here and open it in the most boring text editor I got. The more boring, the better. I'm gonna copy paste it. The contents as it is. I'm gonna move over to the tool here. I'm gonna paste in the contents. I'm gonna go up and just remove the header here. And I'm gonna click go and hope that no edits needed this time. That's really nice. So now I could go and up and just clean up this if I wanted to. So the next part, I'm not gonna do it because we're running out of time, and I know that in the data quality days there are gonna be some socials and games later on. But I would like to have a template query here, so you could just go into the sidebar here and search for.
Oh.
You would just search. Maybe like, and here you would search for person, and then you could generate a schema for that. That would be really nice. We're not gonna do it today because I don't want to take time from someone else, but I am gonna share this query in the last few minutes we do have. So let me see, banners. So here we go if you want to play with this query. I am gonna play with this query in the future. I'm for sure about that. Gonna turn it into a template if no one else does that before me. And yeah, I think I'm onto something here.
You really are. I think so too.
Gonna have a quick look at the comments before we.
I don't see anything specific now. There was a comment, or perhaps speeding it up, but I think you did it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, great. I'm really happy with that. I hope authors are very happy with that.
Yes. And luckily, this is also saved, of course, on YouTube. It's easy to go back and do it in any tempo that you want to really see what's happening.
Yeah, indeed.
All right. So yeah, excellent. So I think in any minute now, it will start back into the Jitsi. So head back over there and we'll see for some socials.
In the meanwhile,
happy editing.
Happy editing.